Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. Our guest on this episode, Dr. Vijay Jog, the founder of CRGroup and president of Global Business Applications for CRGroup's parent company, Quisitive, joins me to talk about some of the themes he is seeing in the dynamic space today. This episode is sponsored by BI4 Dynamics, and we start by looking at what Microsoft has to offer its ERP customers around analytics. As Vijay notes, the options vary by Dynamics product, and there are some interesting new and upcoming capabilities, including the transition from BYOD to BYOL for finance and operations, and more Power BI tools. But beyond the standard tools, what can customers really expect to get from Microsoft out of the box? Vijay shares his view, and we also talk about what it takes for an organization to get value out of their data, including the organizational challenges and the personnel needs, both at the technical and the executive levels. Okay, I'm here with Dr. Vijay Jog. Vijay, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, you're welcome.
As we get started, I thought maybe we could get a little bit of an introduction from you, the history of your company and your work.
Sure. I'm a founder of CRGroup and also president of our parent company for global business applications. The name of the company is Quisitive. My background is engineering and corporate finance. I have, unfortunately, a PhD in finance. And I started the company, as I said, 25 years ago, and we've been in the dynamic space for as many years as start of the company. So I have quite familiar with what is happening in this space, what are the challenges to provide insights for effective Power BI or BI, and the changing role of data in driving business success.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into it here. So yeah, I thought we would just start with some of the big picture topics that maybe are on your mind, I think on the minds of a lot of people right now, like, the world of sort of data and intelligence as it relates to organizations today and their business systems. What do you see as the biggest changes that are happening out there around data?
Great question. 25, 30 years ago, we were hunting for data. Now, the world has completely changed. ERP systems like Dynamics, Business Central, or F&O produces data. As much data as you need in multiple shapes and forms. The challenge has been that it's not enough to use that data to create insight. So the first challenge is everybody knows data exists. It's in the ERP system. How can I get insight? Number two, and more to do with pandemic as well, agility is what is required by business leaders now. And if you're in the office of the CFO, because most of the data resides there from time to time, gone are the days where you say, let me tell you what happened last month. And, I finished that at T+5 and how good I am. Doesn't cut it anymore. What is being asked of the leaders is, hey, give me something that allows me to take proactive decisions. I don't want you to send me reports. I want to be self-served. I want it to be easy. Don't give me data, shape the data in such a way that I can view it. So visualize it for me. Don't give me rows and columns as you give me an Excel spreadsheet. And data, is everywhere, not only in the ERP systems, it's on other systems. So the business leaders are saying, get me that data to me no matter which system it belongs to. The challenge with all this as also is, there is a tremendous shortage of people who can do this, who can change data into information. And even if you have people, it's an extremely time-consuming and expensive process, whether you have people on site or you hire, companies like ours to do it for you. It's just an expensive proposition. So those are the kind of challenges I'm finding out there with respect to data and insight and business intelligence and proactive decision-making.
Right. I mean, it seems a bit daunting. When companies you talk to, try to face these changes, I can imagine a few different scenarios, but maybe from your perspective, sort of what are some of those decisions that they have to make and how feasible, how possible is it to really address some of those? And let's bring it, specifically maybe in the frame of Dynamics ERPs.
So, Dynamics, both Business Central and F&O are great platforms. Data is there. There is a reporting architecture built into both these products, which is fairly good in terms of getting quick information, operational information. What is missing is getting what I call analytics out of it in an easy shape and form. DFO, for example, has 1,500 plus tables, and same information may exist in multiple tables. So it's kind of really impossible to get really quick insights, even though Microsoft has provided, Excel and Power BI, and there are some out of the box Power BI reports that come out of it. Our experience is it's really not that easy. You require business analysts, you require technical people to get there. So easy accessible data that can be turned into information and insight is still a challenge. I'll give an example. If you today ask yourself, you know what, I'm a distributor. How can I very quickly get supplier performance? What did they deliver what we wanted to deliver? Was it in full, on time? What was the performance? How many credit notes have to be issued, etc., etc. You can get a business analyst to provide these reports to you, but for you to have it on your fingertips, really not possible. It goes in BC as well as it goes in FNO. The other quick comment for you is that, if a business central, as an example, has account schedule, but there is no security. So now the question is, how can I give secured access to information that my decision makers require? So yeah, data exists, information is sometimes available, but creating analytics and insight from it continues to be difficult.
Yeah, it's a big challenge. It makes me sort of wonder how customers should even view some of these challenges, whether they should expect more from their ERP, for example. And you mentioned a couple interesting scenarios and the challenges that are sort of inherent when it comes to BC or F&O, and whether these products can or should do more for that, or whether it really is more about a broader data management strategy and for companies to sort of make progress in that area, almost sort of independent of or alongside their advances in bringing modern ERP on board. I don't know, what's your perspective on that? This, how those sort of competencies and capabilities evolve on top of each other, alongside each other?
So we have small clients, we have very large clients. We have what I call mature clients. We are clients who are, let me call it intermediate. Different clients have tackled this problem differently. Microsoft is also really helping. One of the exciting things about Microsoft, at least in the FNO world, is this movement from BYOD to bring your own data lake. As you may know, obviously, that Microsoft wanted to launch BYOL last March, then it got changed to October last year, then it got changed to March this year. We are really, really hoping that BYOL would be launched and would be available for public, say October this year. So, 6 to 8 weeks from now. That will allow us to now have at least data in the form that we can consume properly. However, it's still tables in BYOL. You still have to do a lot of work to get it from there to insights. This challenge also, as you know, is not new. Some of our very mature clients who have been using, AX 2012, for example, have gone and created their own data warehouse. But as Microsoft changes from, AX 2012 to R3 to FNO, they have to maintain that DW. And people who created it may have left the organization. So management of, let me call it customized data warehouses and maintenance is difficult. Number two, no matter what people say or what companies want, ERP systems will not be able to have all the data in the ERP system. I'll give you an example. Suppose you are in a B2C, let's call it in the e-commerce world. Well, your data also is social data. Well, that's out there in the system somewhere. It's not in your ERP system. So how are you going to now compare customer satisfaction, for example, or repeatable clicks, for example, or the time they spend on your website, for example, with respect to the product they're looking for and the sales of those products? So then the challenge, of course, has been not only I need data from an ERP system in a data warehouse, I also want it in such a way that this data warehouse can be expanded or extended to bring in data from other systems and at the same time link it. So this is a challenge, and it's going to be kind of difficult for companies to say, I will do it myself. Let me assemble a 8, 10, 15 people BI team and let them go to town and get this for me. Just not possible these days. We know our clients are kind of struggling with it. Even the most mature, highly sophisticated, lots of money clients still struggling with it.
Is part of that struggle some of just the new skills and knowledge that's required to really have a good understanding, good control over these decisions?
Yeah, but let's step back. If you think about what would be an ideal analytics team in the company, and let's assume you have all the resources you need, so money is not an issue. I know it's always an issue, but let's assume money is not an issue, right? Then you need functional folks who understand F&O or BC from the front end. You need functional folks who also understand a little bit of the back end, all the tables that these two systems have. Then you need technical folks, data warehouse kind of folks, to create a data warehouse from these multiple tables. Then we need some data scientists or Power BI type folks or Excel folks to say, okay, now that you have the data in the DW, let me create for you the visualization you need. And then then they ask the client, so what do you need? Typical answer from the C-suite is, well, everything. You know the business, give me everything. Well, that's an impossible task. So we need to kind of give them right off the bat something like out of the box. Here are what we call best in class reports and analytics. And now you consume it. If you want to modify it, absolutely. But I don't want you to start hiring people in multiple different areas, cobble a team together and hope this team works. And you get what you want in the time you have. It's not just the money anymore, right? It's also the time to get information as well. So clients are challenged. Let me put it this way. Some have been successful, but with brute force.
It sounds like partly a sort of leadership challenge and some very critical decision making as part of that process.
Most of the time knows what they want. They just don't know how to get it so that they consume it in a very, very easy fashion for them without worrying about or talking to somebody to explain to them what this all means. So let me put it this way. The problem has been identified. Various solutions have been tried, but the satisfaction with the solutions, I don't think it's great out there. At least in our client space, we have seen challenges, continued challenges to say, get me information, please. I need insights. Don't give me, management report or reports.
Well, what are some of the, I know you've talked a little bit about this. Can you talk about any more of the specific problems that organizations may or will encounter as they do some of this work, especially let's even say, in the current landscape or in looking just to the future?
Well, let me tell you one thing they're going to encounter. The speed of decision making required of the C-suite is going to increase because competitive landscape has really, really changed. My expectation is companies have now figured out that there could be sea changes in the business model. Pandemic being just one example of it. We can think about hurricanes. You can think about fire. You can think about any calamity that is going to change the way I do business. And the business model has to react to these, let's call it sea changes in the macro system. C-suite is going to require agility in making decisions. And that agility in making decisions is going to require for them to have information on their fingertips. And whether it's today or whether it's tomorrow, that need for information on the fingertips is going to grow very, very quickly. Some are already finding out that they cannot keep up anymore. And you cannot manufacture time. I mean, how hard can one work? We cannot be hunting for data anymore or looking at multiple spreadsheets, for lack of better words, to make decisions. It's just not possible. And it's going to change. I think if there is no good thing about pandemic, but one good thing about pandemic is people have realized that digital transformation, going from data to information to insights, is absolutely essential. And in that speed of getting it is also essential.
Mm-hmm.
So future is going to change significantly.
I imagine there were specific, like with the pandemic, I've talked about various, aspects of it and its business impact and technology impact over the last, year and a half at this point. So I'm curious from your perspective, have there been particular metrics or particular data that your clients have been really either were desperate to get their hands on to do better analysis on, or particular metrics they were really glad they could measure in this time period?
Great question. I'll give you maybe one specific example. We have manufacturing clients and we have distribution clients. We have clients in insurance sector, etc., etc. But let me give you one specific example of a distributor. One thing that definitely impacted distribution is supply chain. And if you look at a typical ERP system, and I'm talking about not just Dynamics, but any ERP system, we keep data on our first level suppliers, those suppliers who supply to us. Well, in this particular client, it was clear that only having that data is not sufficient. We need to look at our 5 critical suppliers and their suppliers. Because the supply chain, as you know, is really extended now. Look what happened to the auto companies. Somewhere in some country, chip manufacturing stopped, auto manufacturing stopped. So if you don't really understand the depth of your supply chain, and that depth may not even exist in the ERP system, now you have to start collecting more data that will reside outside the ERP system, but you want it from a decision-making perspective on your fingertips. Another example is volatility in exchange rates. If you do not have data on which suppliers are going to bill you in which currency, and if your treasury does not have this data on its fingertips, your hedging policies are not going to work really well. So we are also finding different pockets of the business are requiring different silos of data, and you have to now make sure that your analytical platform is going to allow these disparate users access to data that they need to make agile decisions.
When you think about companies that are doing well with their analytics, do you ever do any either formal benchmarking or maybe just informal observation of what is making those types of organizations perform well, what practices they have or what characteristics they share?
In the old days, I used to call it invert the triangle. Now I kind of say flip the rectangle. Don't want to be jargonish here, but if you think about companies, and there are sort of 4 different layers you need to have in the organization. There's a transaction layer that you need to have just to make sure transactions are getting into the system properly, not just the ERP system, any system. Then there is what I call a control layer to make sure that what the information that is coming in, data that is coming into the system is good quality data. Then there's a reporting layer, let's call it statutory reporting that you have to do whether you like it or not. And there is analytics layer. A mature company would have less efforts in transaction layer because they have spent a lot of time in automation and a lot more efforts in the analytics layer. So when we go to companies and look at how they're structured, we right away know which company is mature and which companies is not mature. I also can tell you that RPA is going to also change, also going to be in the business very soon. People have to do robotic process automation of transaction data. Account invoices coming from suppliers should automatically go into ERP system with no human interaction. As an example. Okay. So when we look at companies, maturity of the company tells us, is the transaction processing automated? Is the quality of data there where it's first time in and first time right? Statutory reporting is automated as well and self-serve. And there is analytics, which is also self-serve.
You mentioned some of the upcoming important updates to Dynamics 365 F&O, and I think you mentioned BC as well. Data Lake obviously is something, that extension, I guess, or update is important. Are there other capabilities that you really are watching for when it comes to Microsoft's business applications in terms of things that will impact analytics and the ability to look forward in the business with data?
Microsoft is doing into predictive analytics, is talking about Synapse, is talking about data lakes. But to me, that's more on the technical side. CRGroup has been a Dynamics partner for many, many years. So our job is to help our clients get from not just implement ERP system that meets their business needs, but also implement an analytical platform that allows them to get insights. We even had a product 25 years ago called Quick Cubes on Dynamics GP, and people didn't even know what a cube meant. So I felt like we were on the bleeding edge. But come to today or last 5 to 10 years, we were convinced that for us to be the partner of choice for our clients, we need to find solutions that may not be our solutions, but that may be solutions created by another ISV in the Microsoft space. And whether Microsoft will go and create very easy analytics platform, jury's still out on that. They may not. Or they would say, we are giving you access to data. You people out there are smart. Create your own analytics. So we decided to standardize all our efforts on a product called BI4 Dynamics. And we feel that particular solution now would satisfy our Business Central clients as well as our standard F&O clients who only have data in F&O and that's all they need, or our extremely complicated clients who have data not only in F&O, but also in other systems, and they want kind of single version of the truth or one view of the world. I think this solution allows us to do that. So we are quite happy with what we have partnered with. And if Microsoft comes with something new and exciting, of course, we'll look at it. I mean, we are partners. We need to look at what Microsoft provides as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation on sort of the technical capabilities that they bring ahead versus sort of the business solution that they deliver to end customers, and assessing sort of the gaps there. I think, like you said, that's such a critical element of understanding what you really are getting for your dollars as a Microsoft customer.
And Microsoft has made enormous investments in making sure that the Business Central functionality is world class, the F&O functionality is world class. So they are, I think, putting lots of efforts on the front end as well. And that's not something easily done. And at the same time, they have to worry about, is the back end solid at the same time they're improving functionality. So if they give BYOL, I think they have solved a lot of challenges for clients to say, hey, all the tables are here. You don't have to know too many things. Now use the tables to do what you want to do. Unfortunately, these tables have to be still created into a data warehouse of some sort or make sense out of it. And this BI4 Dynamics solution does it out of the box. So we thought, why not? Let's go with it.
Mm-hmm. I'm hearing from you, and I think I've heard, other perspectives in the recent past that, especially with the data lake model that's being employed, you sound positive about that approach. Not to say that there's not this additional, work needed for a company to really get their BI estate sort of in shape. But the approach itself is, I don't know, do you agree that it's sort of a positive approach that gives you something to work with?
Absolutely. BYOD was painful. It really was. So we're all looking forward to BYOL. And so far, I think we are really excited about it. And I think every sophisticated client of F&O would be also excited about it, because these sophisticated clients have their own technical teams. They already probably have data warehouse built using BYOD. So they may have to make some changes, but the latency would be quick. It will be cheaper. It will be just very, very good on the F&O side. And Business Central, I mean, we already know what Business Central does and does not do.
Anything else you wanted to add before, anything else you're sort of watching for or excited about coming up before we end here?
No, my only thing is I think the time to hire teams of people and asking them to do something that requires time and efforts, I think those days are kind of gone. One has to start looking for out-of-the-box solution that gets you 95% there, and then use the scarce technical and business resources to take you over the last 5% if that is required. So clearly from a perspective of a business partner in the dynamic space, I think our next 5 to 10 years, unless Microsoft revolutionizes something, is to continue to use BI4 Dynamics as an easy plug and play, both data warehouse solution, a BI solution, and use their out-of-the-box Power BI and Excel reports and dashboard library and say, here, from data to insights in 30 days. It sounds kind of impossible, and we felt it that way as well, but I think we are convinced now that that's the way to go. And if Microsoft comes up with something out of the box as good as BI4 Dynamics, of course we have to look at it. So far, I don't believe that's going to happen, but who knows, right? What do we know?
What surprises lay ahead, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's a dynamic world. Excuse the pun.
Right. Well, Vijay, thank you so much for joining me. It was a lot of fun chatting today. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome. Thank you, Jason. Take it easy.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to Dr. Vijay Jog for joining me. For over 15 years, BI4 Dynamics has offered Dynamics users an easy plug-and-play data warehouse and BI solution to help companies turn information into intelligence. BI4 Dynamics comes with the largest out-of-the-box Power BI and Excel report and dashboard library to give AX, NAV, BC, and F&O users instant access to dashboards and insight from their Dynamics data. You can start a free 30-day trial of BI4 Dynamics. Just visit bi4dynamics.com/trial to learn more. And that's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me by email, jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. Please also follow us on Twitter or LinkedIn to get all of our updates. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.